We talk about the new 2018 Volkswagen Atlas, both as a new segment and a new strategy for Volkswagen, and we answer some viewer questions next on Talking Cars. Hi, welcome to the show. I'm Jennifer Stockberger.
I'm Gabe Schenhauer.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
Today we're going to talk about a new vehicle. We just took delivery of our 2018 Volkswagen Atlas. So kind of a new thing for Volkswagen. Large SUV, 3 rows. First impressions?
So yeah, I think no one should shrug at this Atlas because it's really very competitive, and it's got it ticks all the boxes. It's got a great powertrain. It's really roomy. I mean, the third row is a real legit kind of seat for real adults. Controls are really easy, and it's really quiet, almost a luxury car level quietness. Right. I mean, it's very competitive. I mean, the question is, it's kind of late to the party. It's competing with well-established nameplates out there like the Toyota Highlander and the Honda Pilot, which kind of like dominate the segment. And
work cut out for it.
Yeah, and Volkswagen's been a little tarnished lately, and in the public opinion arena. So it remains to be seen how it's going to take on.
Yeah, and powertrain V6 first, right?
Yes, it's a V6. Later there's going to be a 2-liter turbo, but only with front-wheel drive.
Oh, okay.
But the V6 and the 8-speed automatic, it works
really
great.
Really nice. Any thoughts?
Well, finally, right? What Americans want, 3-row SUV. It's actually almost amazing that Volkswagen, being such a huge global company, has taken this long to provide that, which is such a kind of an obvious thing, right?
Yep.
I mean, we've got lots of small station wagons and all these kind of esoteric vehicles, and even when previously with a midsize SUV, they had it was 2-up market actually, right? It was the same platform as the Porsche Cayenne. And it was kind of like a down market Porsche, and sold with no
talking about the
row.
Touareg.
The Touareg, exactly. So it's just kind of like, yes, this is the right car for our market, and they're doing it right. Quiet, roomy, good, nice powertrain. Not the sportiest vehicle in the world. I mean, certainly not what someone maybe coming from a Volkswagen background is really expecting.
That's what I was going to say. Are they going to feel alienated or like they sold out or?
Maybe. I mean, there is a potential for that. But, I mean, for years, Volkswagen relied on Eurocentric cars that were always the smallest in the segment, the most expensive in the segment. I mean, they were premium, nice interiors, and they had the nice ride and handling. But I think only in the last few years, Volkswagen realized, in order to compete in the U.S. market, got to go a little larger, a little less expensive, a little less premium. So that's what we saw with the current Passat, how it competes with Toyota Camry and others. And the same with the Volkswagen Jetta, and even now with the new Tiguan.
Well, I mean, it's more global thinking. So before it was like, let's build a Golf. Everyone likes Golfs. We'll sell a Golf in every market. And now it's very different. So the Atlas, for instance, it's for North America and China. This is not a European vehicle.
Right. I was saying, we were talking, I traveled in Munich. You don't see any Atlases in Munich. It's Golf, 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 Golf. So You're right. It's for here. And that's interesting, that strategy to bring it just to this market. It's not a global car. They need that piece.
It's not a global car, but it's a global company. And, the other car companies do the same thing. I mean, they're not selling lots of, Camrys and Highlanders in Europe. They're not even selling a whole lot of those things in Japan, their home market. So, I mean, I think it's understanding each one of the markets and figuring out, okay, fine, China and America have maybe similar tastes, so we'll build a vehicle for them. We'll build another vehicle for Europe, maybe other vehicles for Japan.
Yeah, I mean, the Golf is still the best-selling car in Europe, but the U.S. is a whole different world. I mean, the Atlas is built in Tennessee, and it's made for America. It's conceived by Americans working for Volkswagen.
And they need that piece to You know, again, the true Volkswagen truists are going to say, you know, that's a very different departure, but they need that piece to subsidize, you know, building the full market strategy.
They need it twofold. I mean, one, yeah, okay, fine. You could probably go to some Volkswagen forums and they're like, "Well, it doesn't drive like a real Volkswagen." But you know what? Who cares? Because if you're looking for a 3-row SUV, maybe the steering feel isn't really the number one priority. Maybe it is that quietness of that room. But again, you got to subsidize and make the money from that, so then you can sell those, you know, the Golf R or whatever it is, those esoteric cars that
are true to the
right.
the Volkswagen driving capability.
Exactly.
Have there been others that have done similar and had success in doing that? I think of BMW. Correct me if I'm wrong. When those SUVs, they said, "Oh, BMW is going to build an SUV. How horrible is that?" But
well, we all know where the market's going, and SUVs are kind of like taking chunks of the sedan segment, and there are some brands that rely completely on their SUV. For instance, Jaguar F-Pace. I mean, it's 80% of the brand now.
Wow.
And BMW with the X5. I mean, that's one of probably the best-selling BMW in the world is the X5.
Right.
And I think there's a great example with Porsche. So, I mean, with Porsche, when they came out with SUVs and front-engine cars that,
how dare they?
The Panamera, how could they? This is not a real Porsche, and they've completely lost themselves. And the truth is that that's why Porsche can continue to exist. Because
then people bought them. Yeah.
Well, they buy them, they can make some profits, and they could still have the 911, the 911 GT3, and all these different, these Porsche that sell in lower volumes, but keep that brand alive. If Porsche said, no, we're just doing sports cars, that's it, you can't have a business model that way.
Right. And there's others coming, right? The Subaru.
Yeah, in terms of three-row family SUV. Yeah, Subaru used to have the Tribeca, which wasn't very successful, and now they're coming up with the Ascent, which is probably about a year away or so. Yep. So it's a strong segment. Is
it coming up with the Ascent? I thought that was...
Yeah.
That's good. See, we didn't do that intentionally.
It's ascending.
But I mean, it's kind of like there is a formula for these 3-row SUVs. And with the Tribeca B9, I mean, I don't know if anyone remembers this car. It was just a little bit bizarre. It looked crazy. It was smaller inside. They're figuring out, okay, here's the strategy that works. Here's the size vehicles that people are looking for, and let's build one and see what happens.
And I do see similarities between the Atlas and the squarer shape, better visibility, great convenience for families.
That's right.
Very
squarer. There's more room inside.
Oh my gosh,
and from a brand perspective, you have to let your customers have something to move on to. Let's say you grew out of a Forester.
Right.
Sure. Where do you go after a Forester?
And you brought the Tiguan. We were talking about the Tiguan too. So very similar strategy there to keep the Tiguan more for this market as well, right?
Right. So yeah, the old Tiguan was very Eurocentric. It was small and too premium and too expensive. And now it's one of the largest in the segment. It's 11 inches longer than the previous Tiguan. It's even longer than the Chevy Equinox. That allows it to have a third-row seat. Actually, we just have a first drive on our site about the Tiguan. So anyway, it's designed to compete in the U.S. and compete well on price, on size, and not so much for the enthusiast market.
Yep.
Well, one thing that reminds me, what Volkswagen is doing is almost like old school German vehicles, because it used to be like the 5 Series and the 3 Series BMWs. They looked the same except there were different sizes. You cut the sausage a different length, and the Mercedes-Benz were that way. And you look at these two SUVs, it almost looks like it's the same vehicle. One's like a little bit longer, one's a little bit bigger, but I mean, they look so similar. And in the interior is so similar. I mean, it basically has the same controls and the same pieces. It's just, do you want, the 7/8 scale one or the full-size one?
Right.
Yeah, Mini Atlas and a Maxi Atlas.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, and I was really, from a family perspective, there's a lot of convenience in that van or that SUV with access.
It's okay. You can call it a van.
Oh,
yeah, no, I can't call it a van. I didn't mean it. No. That SUV. So really good. So we also have some viewer questions if you guys are ready. I'll look at some questions.
Sure, why not?
Sure.
Okay, first one. Consumer Reports and its reviewers used to be scholastic, but now they are just a bunch of idiots. I think they're talking about you too. They're probably not talking. No, they're a bunch of idiots who are out of touch with reality in America. People buy the Toyota Camry for its reliability, no nonsense fuss, and family and user friendliness. No one that they know of would buy a Camry for its look, driving dynamics, etc. American families just simply want a car that will take them from point A to point B. Address that at all? Are we out of touch?
So he's absolutely right about the Camry, and it's right. I mean, people buy it because it's roomy, it's reliable, it works for them, and that's why it's been doing so well. It's not for nothing. It's the best-selling car in the U.S., selling over 400,000 units a year. And we actually touched upon that in our previous podcast. We said, the formula of the Camry is brilliant, but somehow Toyota feels the pressure to appease all the Camry detractors out there that are not crazy about the looks or the handling and pretty much all the buff books. And we said, that criticism is largely unjustified. I mean, the Camry just gets a bad rap for some reason. But yeah, I mean, Toyota basically stuck to its tried and true formula here. And it was just a little lip service for styling and handling, but it's still a great car.
I'm trying to find the Consumer Reports that doesn't like Camrys. I mean, have we put out a lot of negative on Camry? I mean, look, I said before it's boring, and I mean that in a good way. That's what I mean, look, it's boring, and I mean, you look at, I could get a Maserati or an Alfa Romeo that's in the shop. It's very exciting, and maybe exciting when it leaves you stranded somewhere. But I mean, the Camry is a bit boring. It is. It doesn't mean don't buy it. I mean, it does things really, really well. And sure, it's not, that razor pinpoint, handling and it's a bit isolated from the road. But I mean, to some people, that's luxury. That's something that you're looking for. So it's
quiet. Yeah.
It's quiet and it's luxurious and it's decently priced and it's reliable and all these good things. So yes, we will continue to say good things about the Camry and recommend them. For sure.
I also think there's a point about our ratings that we've had to make some assumptions of what we think people want. And there's people out there that just say, tell me the best one. They don't really care how we got there. Just tell me the best one. So we've created these formulas of scoring that give you the best one based on that formula. But there's an opportunity, and we say this on cars and other things, absolutely delve in there. There's a ton of information in there. It may not be the best one for you, but read the words, look at the ratings in the areas that you're more interested in, unpack that a little bit. Our best one might not be your best one. And we're hopefully at least giving you that, to say, hey, it might not be the most razor sharp, but you have to say, as a reader or a subscriber, not interested in that. So I'm going to skip over those words. And we really encourage people to use the ratings to their own benefit.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, you look at the ratings. It's like they're not the best cars for me.
Right.
They're not the best cars for you or you. I mean, it's just kind of like overall they're better. But all the cars have different things going for them, and we try our best to try to explain what those are.
The good and the bad.
Right.
Yeah,
which may not be your good and bad.
Yeah, sometimes it's a little difficult to cram a complex reality into just one bar graph or one numerical score.
Formula.
So you really have to pay attention to the details, and at every opportunity we'll be the first ones to say, if you like driving and you want a family sedan like this, the Ford Fusion might be a better car for you.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Sure.
Right. And hopefully that's there. Hopefully we've given that. So anyway. Hi, CR. You mentioned putting bikes into minivans, standing up in an episode, and I was wondering what vehicles are not minivans that you can fit a bike in the back standing up. They've done this with a 2011 CRV, but had to completely remove the back seat. What would be some alternatives, new or used, to minivans that can fit a bike standing up without removing the seat? I'm going to give this to Jake because he does this all the time. So, being Mr. Triathlon. So, any thoughts?
Well, look, I mean, from the beginning, it's like, how about a minivan? Minivans are great. I'm always grabbing our minivans when I go on and go out biking.
Unless it's the Ridgeline.
Well, okay, fine.
Works,
well, I mean, the Ridgeline has been, you're right, I've been in that car for all the time because, I mean, I just went this weekend. I had, We had 5 of us, and we had 5 bikes, you know, in the back of that Ridgeline, and it was like no big deal.
An expensive bike, so you've got enough
Well,
room.
I trust them. I mean, look, I mean, you could get a bike rack, but I mean, getting 6 bikes that are like,
Yeah.
you know, hanging off the back or on the top is a little bit hairy. So Ridgeline is, geez, that's a real nice vehicle. But I mean, to that point, I mean, some of the earlier RAV4s had a real low floor. The you actually came up with it.
Oh,
before.
I remember the Element.
The Element, that was like,
I took my kids to Martha's Vineyard, and I
Yeah.
remember folding up the seats and rolling the bikes in. Yeah, it was great.
yeah, the Element's got.
I actually remember like 10 years ago when my kids were little and their bikes were littler. I used to stand up the bikes in the back of the 05 CRV, just fold a third
so
of
yeah,
the
to this
rear
point.
seat, stand both of them up, and seatbelt the bikes also, so
Right,
they don't
right,
just
right.
roll inside the cab.
And again, we mentioned, I think, a couple episodes, there was the Transits, and those do work. There's extra height, but
Well, and you could
Yeah.
deliver packages
at the
for a
same time,
Those are-
right? More
yes.
commercial vehicles,
A little
but they
bit.
were out there. I think that's from the same segment.
Yeah.
Third question, I want a Jeep. I am physically handicapped and walk with a cane, so I need an SUV. I'm having a little trouble deciding between a V6 all-wheel drive Cherokee Limited or a used V6 all-wheel drive Grand Cherokee. Size not an issue, interested in your take. Reliability is not part of my choice, so stick to Fiat Chrysler. Don't want any other brand. So one of the things I'll say is we did just do some coverage on best cars for senior drivers, and a lot of that is about limited mobility at seniors' age. But one of the things we talk about is how great SUVs can be to this person. When you get that hip height kind of slide in, ease of access, that's huge.
Right, no climbing, no ducking.
No climbing, no ducking.
Right.
You know, you kind of sit and swivel your legs in. In this case, I just did a little bit of homework. The Grand Cherokee is about 5 inches taller in that ground to seat height. So I don't know how tall this person is, but both, it's not an especially tall SUV. So probably both of those would work from an SUV, though the Grand Cherokee is a little bit higher. Certainly I would encourage, you know, try both, you know, if you can.
Yeah, I'm cracking up just a little bit. It's like, you know, I have a hard time getting a car, so I need an SUV.
Right.
Like, what about a minivan? I mean, Chrysler makes a few minivans.
Right,
They seem
yep.
to be popular for those. Those are really easy to get into.
It's like they might be too big, but yeah, they're
Probably
very
get
easy.
better fuel economy than those guys.
Yep.
But you know, I mean, the other thing about it is, I mean, you know, of course, you know, I don't care about reliability, so I'm kind of okay. That's fine. That's neither here nor there. I mean, on those vehicles, look, the Grand Cherokee is such a nicer vehicle. I mean, that is just a luxury vehicle that is really nice driving. The Jeep Cherokee, okay, it's newer. It's kind of an also-ran.
Yeah, if you're going to go with the Cherokee, get the V6 and the Limited with the leather seats.
And I was thinking too, and again, I always am from the safety aspect, there would probably be some available safety in the newer version, but you're certainly getting ESC, you know, don't go any earlier than that. But yeah, the Grand Cherokee would work too as a better car. All right, that's about all we've got. As always, thank you for watching. If you want any more details on any of the things in the cars we talked about today, check out the show notes below, and we'll see you next time.